So then we go into developing scorecards. So supplier performance is in meeting requirements for the purchased goods shall be monitored. So, and then that monitoring shall be an input to the reevaluation process. So, a couple of factors to consider. There's many different ways to look at this, but here's a couple. Non-conformance, but then also non-conformance rate. Sometimes you want to have that data normalized so that you do non-conformance based off of how many receipts you've had. Supplier CAPAs, the timeliness of those CAPAs. Were they late? Were the responses adequate? Did they go effective or ineffective? Do they have proper management of those customer complaints? Supplier fault product hold or field actions. Did they cause challenges for you in your finished good? Organizational, so internal audits, external audits, and then third party results. Did they have any 483s for other matters? We just went out to a supplier a few weeks ago that had some FDA observations. We went in and double checked on those activities, and they got findings from us for the same areas because they didn't fix them adequately. So I think those are type of things that help trigger from a manufacturing standpoint of where your challenges are. So those are all quality. And then the last two, fill rate and on-time delivery. So I'm not a big fan of putting what I call purchasing or sourcing metrics in the scorecard, but it does fall in there. It can also help you understand how that supplier is performing. So if their fill rate, if they're expecting 1,000 parts a month and they're only giving you 800, what's going on? Are they closing off cavities in mold because they're getting flash? Or what's going on with that supplier that they can't meet that fill rate that they signed up to? Same thing with on-time delivery. Why are they late? Are they having other issues? It can also help trigger some supplier development opportunities.
So this is obviously, I'm going to assume that this slide is specifically your best practice slide because I see Shurig Manufacturing up top there, and obviously we would be a best practice. So in terms of that evaluation piece, obviously you're looking at data on regularly, and you want to look at it as often as possible to identify trends and make sure you're creating process improvements and best practices. But from a reevaluation standpoint, you reevaluate your suppliers on an annual basis?
Yeah, so it's based off their performance. So there's minimum requirements, but those requirements can get stretched out longer and longer if they're performing well. So especially in these times, in these lean corporations and lean businesses, you can't go out to every supplier every year. You just don't have the resources to do it. So you need to focus your effort on the suppliers that need your effort. And we'll get into that as we get into evaluations, but use your scorecard. If a supplier is perfect every single month, the parts that they're sending in, why are you going to go out just to go check a box to make sure they're doing what they say they're going to do? You could tell that they're doing what they say they're going to do because you're getting good parts. And I think, as you start developing your scorecards and you start seeing trends, so, as in Shurig Manufacturing here, there's some dips. August, September, kids are going back to school, or is the staff being affected by that? Coming back from January break, was there an issue there? So you start seeing trends year over year, and as you get that data, you can start monitoring it. Another thing to think about is, are you tracking it monthly or quarterly? Like we talked about, I recommend if monthly is ideal. If you can get it weekly, if you have the systems in place to be able to do it more often, do it, because you're going to get better data. You're going to get more granular data and be able to react to it quicker. Again, use the data. If you get it, analyze it. And communicate. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so you've dealt with a large amount of suppliers. What's your experience been on the capabilities to get that data? Can you give us an idea, and those that are listening, what your experience has been? Is it typical that 70% of the suppliers that you've dealt with over the last 4 years can have the abilities to give you the data on a weekly basis, 2 weeks?
Yeah, so it really goes down to how large your business is internally. So when I'm working with 38 different manufacturing facilities, they may be all product of different integrations and purchase and acquisitions over the years, and they may be all on different systems. So if your business is on one system, it's much easier to be able to pull this data from your NCR reporting or your ERP system. Whereas if you're a conglomerate of multiple integrations and acquisitions and divestitures, it may be a lot more challenging.
Because you got more steps because you have so many systems.
Yeah, it's combining that data, and it's not always apples and it could be apples and oranges. It's not always the same data sets and things like that as you get into larger corporations. But if you're a smaller company with minimal sites, for example, this graph is up here. Each colored line is a different manufacturing site, so you can see how they performed. They may be performing great for this supplier or for this manufacturing site, but this manufacturing site had a challenge. So it gives you that granularity of the data and understand where your challenge is coming from. So that's the bottom bullet here is do you have multiple manufacturing sites? Does the supplier have multiple manufacturing sites? We have many suppliers that one of their manufacturing sites is awesome. Every month, 100 scorecards, and then 100% scorecards, and then some suppliers, their sister company is horrible. So you need to be able to break that data down and see it down to that level so that you can use these scorecards and make decisions off it.
Mergers and acquisitions too, huge.
Absolutely.
Client, we were working on a position this last holiday around that time, and they had grown so much, certainly organically, but through a couple different mergers and acquisitions. So from a sales comp standpoint, they're pulling data from 4 different locations, from a supply standpoint. So a lot of their metrics were on different systems, and it was a real challenge to pull all that data in and convert it to apples and then make decisions from it. So that certainly affects it as well.
Absolutely.